Welcome everyone back to Mr. Dar Weather Updates, and today's video having a live radar on the current weather conditions. We also have a look at the UKV, having the temperatures for the next 5 days with the precipitation charts as well. We're also going to have a look at the GFS, ECM and Met Office ensembles over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have a look at the trends for them to see how this heat wave is emerging. So, obviously we still have a heat wave on the cards for coming up to like mid-month. By this stage in southern England, we are definitely into drought conditions, really, since the lack of rainfall is quite apparent, especially in these weather charts latest, at least in a couple of weeks. Maybe the odd shower burst is possible in the mid-month, but we'll have to see what happens there. So, if we do have a look at the live radar, you can see there's plenty of rain around. However, not in the right areas, basically. There's a big band of rain in Scotland, quite persistent. At times, especially in the Scottish Hills, could be quite heavy at times, but very persistent. Further south, we have got a band of rain pushing in, but very, very patchy, light rain than anything. Nothing really too useful, if it's coming to the south, obviously. If it does go to the south, it's going to fizzle out, unfortunately. Not much coming from the south there. Still in a bit of a water deficit, so, Still got some bands of rain pushing in, though, into Scotland, so quite a wet week for them as well. Even got a bit of bands of rain in Northern Ireland as well. If we do have a look at the UKV, have a look at the temperatures and the precipitation for the next 5 days, we can see onto Saturday, it's we're going to see that same band of rain that's going to persist through Scotland throughout the day. So very grim there, with some thick cloud cover and drizzle possible in the rest of England. Could brighten up at times, but still got some showers around in the evening, which will persist throughout the night. Actually, so very cloudy. There is another band of rain pushing through Scotland. Again, persistent rain lasting throughout Sunday. So very grim there. If I'm being honest, and then another band of rain pushing into Monday morning. Not as big, maybe it's a little bit quicker. The rest of England, not too bad, but just a bit cloudy. If we have a look at Monday, you can see it does actually start to clear up a little bit in the south. We still have a bands of rain pushing in far northern isles of Scotland. Clouds starting to break up in England. There's a cloud over in night. Tuesday morning, we still have a band of rain affecting northwestern Scotland. Could be heavy, could be persistent at times. Whereas for the south, nothing really much precipitation. A bit cloudy at times, if anything, with the odd patchy drizzle. On to Wednesday, a little bit more settled. Throughout the rest of the week. The cloud will clear, even for Scotland. Actually, it's getting a bit clearer there. Not as much rain, so you can see it's starting to get more. That's kind of showing why it's going to get a little bit hotter. Do you have a look at the temperatures today for Saturday? Let's have a look. So today we are likely, I think yesterday we got to nearly 27 to 28 degrees, so quite similar temperatures to today. So we're likely to get to, let's have a look, in Scotland, perhaps mid to high teens in some areas. Northern England, low 20s. And then the rest of England, widely mid, perhaps even high 20s. So getting a bit more there. A bit of a warming trend. So we're widely 27, perhaps even 28 Celsius is possible in some areas today. So getting quite warm, if not hot, in some areas on today. And then for Sunday, getting even gradually warmer as we get along. Still low 20s and teens into Scotland and Northern England. However, in the rest of England, we're widely in the mid to high 20s. We are more likely to see 28, perhaps even 29 Celsius possible on Sunday. So starting to get towards heatwave thresholds now as we go along. Looking over to Monday, we can see that heat is gradually starting to push through the north. We're more likely to see low, perhaps even mid-20s in the north. And we can start to see 21 Celsius there in Aberdeenshire as that warmth spills in. So more likely high teens, low 20s than low teens in Scotland. So starting for a bit of a warming trend there. We're starting to see probably the warmest conditions or hottest conditions in southeastern areas of England. We're likely to be widely high 20s, low 30s. So 31, perhaps even 32 Celsius is possible. Obviously nothing as extreme as the last heat wave. However, it will be quite long lasting. There's not much signs for this hot drought-like conditions in the south letting up until at least after the 17th, at the very least. It could even be more than that. A bit uncertain about there, but definitely getting a lot hotter there. Very similar conditions for Tuesday. Nothing really much has changed about the temperatures, actually. Again, it's a little bit cooler, actually, in the northwest than on previous days. Probably more cloud cover possible, but still could see low 20s, high teens in Scotland and Northern England. However, Western England, high 20s and low 30s widely, so still going to see 31, perhaps 32 Celsius still likely on Tuesday as well. If we have a look at Wednesday, nearly identical conditions, actually. However, the heat does start to build in a little bit further north as well, so we could see high 20s and mid to high 20s possible in the Northern England. And even in Scotland, starting to get to low to mid 20s, especially in Aberdeenshire, because it's 25 Celsius there in Aberdeenshire there. Then into the rest of the UK, widely low 30s, so 31, again an isolated 32 cannot be ruled out. Still very hot conditions possible. Before we move on to GFS, I would like to have a look at the humidity levels to see how this would differ in terms of humidity. So let's have a look. So the heat starts on... Oh, why does this not want to do anything now? So for goodness sake. So there we go. So the heat does start around on Sunday. We'll start to see about 29 Celsius. So relative humidity is actually quite low for where the heat is. We're getting to values around 35%. So very comfortable conditions, actually. So it's, I think the comfortable humidity is around 40 and 60%. So that's quite not too bad in terms of that weather. So nowhere near as humid. Similar humidity levels are possible onto Monday, if not even lower. 22% humidity, very dry air, not much water vapour in the air there. I think it was like 30 Celsius there, so very, nowhere near as humid. Much more comfortable heat, more like a typical heat wave we get in the UK. Similarly, on to Tuesday, again, very similar, very dry conditions there. And then probably going to persist throughout the week. So dry, not that humid where the heat is. And again, we can look at it in the dew points as well. So the dew points are, I think, in the last heat wave was like in the mid-teens, low 20s. However, we are not going to experience that high humidity, that high dew points, really, where we get dew formed at that air temperature, basically. Can still see maybe low teens, really, in that area. It's still possible. But as we do persist throughout the heat wave, throughout the week, the dew points does start to decrease. We're now in a single digits. So definitely undercurrents that we not have that much air humidity. I will be doing an explainer on that later on, and what dew point is and what relative humidity is, because it's quite a tricky topic, actually. Even I struggle with it. It's not my favourite, but again, if you have a lower dew point, that means the relative humidity in the air is a lot lower, and it's not going to feel as oppressive, let's say. Again, very even lower, actually, humidity. A bit more in, obviously, Scotland, because obviously got rain and cloud there, most likely. We're in the single digits for dew points there. If we have a look for Wednesday, very similar. Oh, actually, no, it's a little bit higher. Could be a bit more higher, slightly higher dew points, but nothing too exceptional. Okay, finally, looking at the GFS, we've got that ridge of high pressure building in throughout the week. Very strong high pressure there. Could, again, bringing winds off from the south. If I draw it on, actually, where we're getting the winds is where we've got the pressure patterns. It's coming from a continent. It's more coming to this area than, obviously, this area here. If it was coming from this area, we're going to have a lot hotter conditions, but we're not really yet. That's why it's not going to be as hot. It's more going to be like the high pressure is going to extend out here, and it's going to bring winds from the southwest. So that's kind of what's going to happen. We can see still very settled conditions, but more unsettled for Scotland. We've got a low pressure system there in Iceland. So you can see it does look slightly less settled, actually. We've got readings, some let's say lower pressure. Some low pressure could actually persist in the southern. So this would indicate hot, thundery weather, really. So definitely looking a little bit more thundery there. Does start to build in again as we get into the end of the one. So no sign, really, for any meaningful rainfall. Definitely going to see some thunderstorms on this one, because I see coming from a continent that's, relatively low pressure as well. However, we're not going to see a lot of rainfall at all. Looking like a drought-like conditions, especially in southern England. Have a look at the temperatures, what the trend it's wanting to say on here. Let's have a look. Okay, so I do think that the GFS is sort of overdoing it a little bit, but this is the trend of temperatures they're saying here. It's about mid-30s. I mean, it's unlikely, really. We'll see how the one's going, but that's what the GFS is saying. Now let's see what the ECM is saying. It's similar, really. We've got low pressure to the north, affecting Scotland. High pressure to the south, and that's going to build in throughout the week. Very high pressure, bringing some heatwave threshold to the UK. Just start to building a little bit of a ridge there in the Atlantic. Trying to get some low pressure sensors, but that's nothing much is coming from that. High pressure keeps on building, bringing settled, hot conditions. Notice that we have got a thundery low in the southwestern areas. If that moves up, we can see some very thundery conditions from the southwest. But again, nothing really much for the meaningful rainfall. High pressure is standing right to the southeast of us, bringing high, dry, hot weather. Kind of is what we've seen throughout the rest of June, end of May, and perhaps even the first half of July. I'm not too sure about the next one. I'll have to have a look at that. But again, if we have a look at the thickness in the atmosphere, which is the temperature at 850 HPA, I think the ECM has definitely kind of firmed up a little bit on this hot weather now. Widely throughout the week, we are in the mid-teens in the south at 850 HPA. That will supply high 20s, low 30s, if my maths is correct. Very similar conditions throughout the week. And as we go in for the end of the run, it actually increases up to the high teens. So 17, 18 degrees at 850 HPA would supply temperatures around 29 to 34 Celsius, I think. I think I might be wrong, but I think it's low to perhaps even mid-30s is possible at the end of this run. So this is what running at Tuesday. God, my eyes is really watery. This is running from Tuesday the 14th. And you can see that's going to get 18, perhaps even 19 degrees at 850 HPA. This is at the 14th. Again, no signs of any wet weather at all. Very far from it. This means that obviously we're going to see quite a drought-like conditions persisting throughout at least the first half of July at now. So that's around, again, that's like low to mid-30s most likely. It's about between 30 and 35, really. So that is what the ECM is saying. It definitely has firmed up in this hot spell, actually, compared to the last few days. Definitely some confidence increasing there. If you have a look at the UK Met Euro one, again, similar conditions. All of these are in similar agreement, actually. High pressure in the southwest. That's going to build up throughout the week, supplying some very hot weather times. Heatwave pressure as possible. We still have a thundery low at the southwest. We're still getting this persistent pattern of thundery lows. So definitely it's going to see some thunderstorms from this one. But again, no meaningful rainfall. It's not going to do much to the temperatures. But if that moves up to the southwest, we could see some thunderstorms. But most likely, high pressure is going to probably suppress that low pressure. It's going to stay high, hot. But still could see a lot of thunderstorms in that type of setup. That's perfect for thunderstorms, actually. Again, looking at the readings, I think they are overdoing it slightly. But again, we've got mid-teens, high teens possible at some point. So again, that means high 20s, low 30s. Again, at the end of this run, it is looking quite hot, actually. This is Saturday 11th, and it seems like according to this run, the heatwave could persist, perhaps even get even stronger. We're seeing thresholds getting to 20 degrees at 850 HPA. It's unlikely, in my opinion, more like high teens, but this is the metal for this one. It's quite, it is quite accurate. So most likely between 32 or 35 Celsius in this type of air mass, I think, widely. We'll have to see what happens there. So definitely looking at heatwave conditions persistent at least throughout the first half of July. So that is what we're seeing there. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.